2 weeks, authorities in Brazil have seized what's thought to be the biggest ever consignment of shark fins, a culinary delight in China, banned across much of the world. The fins of an estimated 10,000 sharks discovered after checks on 2 fish export companies in São Paulo. Authorities say there were 2 different species, the blue shark and the shortfin mako shark. And our guest for today's Focus Perspective is the marine conservationist Claire Nouvian. You've spent a career trying to raise awareness to bring an end to the shark fin trade. First of all, to explain, you're from the Parisian NGO BLOOM Association. When it comes to shark fins, explain this trade. This is a practice where fishermen take off the shark fins and throw the shark back into the water.
Right. The fins actually have much more value than the rest of the shark. Actually, shark meat is not that valuable and it's not even that good, actually. So what they do is that they slice off the fin in the most cruel way and they send back the shark, which is just gasping for air, and then that just suffocates and dies lamentably on the bottom of the ocean. It's a really disgusting practice.
There are 2 big trading hubs, Hong Kong, China. Now, in the work that you've done over 10 years, are you getting any sense that the situation is improving, or is it getting worse?
It's not getting worse, I think, but the reality is that we have a very small area of the world that drives, through its consumption, a massive global extinction. So you would think it's really quite easy to solve at the end of the day, because shark fins it's cartilage, right? So you put cartilage in soup. And the reason why you do that is that the emperor in China used to do this beautiful broth that goes, for the cooks of the emperor. And so the shark fin soup has become a meal which has status. And so you just need to replace this with any kind of substitute, and you can do it, right? So this is what our team in Hong Kong is trying to do. It's a long haul, because you need to change practices like French people with foie gras, they just eat the goose liver that's been stuffed with food. It's actually disgusting when you think of it, but it takes a while to change habits.
I saw a video of you 10, 11 years ago when you first started looking at the shark fin trade, trying to raise awareness, saying that you're determined, you've got the figures, you know what's going on, you know how it could be improved. Has it left you fatigued after all this time, or do you still feel that this is something in momentum that, it can be changed?
It can be. Everything can be changed, right? And you can see with younger generations that they're more aware and they're more demanding with, the sort of consistency of our own practices and our own, consumption habits. But we have a problem with just the older people, to be honest. I'm part of them, right? But I think some younger generations are a lot more aware and maybe just, let's say, committed to making a change. But it will take a while. I mean, don't even bring the question of hope, because I don't think the question is hope right now. The
doesn't
question
apply.
Is acting on the reality, acting on it, action. That's all we know.
When we talk about acting on reality, you have a base in Paris, you have a base in Hong Kong. BLOOM Association, comparatively small, but it packs a punch. I want to talk about 2 things you've been really successful on. One of them is off the French coast. I think, remind me of the name. It's not fly fishing, fly shooting.
Fly shooting. And it's called also demersal seining. So that's what the bottom dragging of the ocean. Well, we were successful we managed to win a vote in the European Parliament to ban this destructive fishing technique, but then France betrayed its own fishermen. And that's what happens all the time with France. France is unfortunately really on side with the large industrial lobbies that really just ravage the ocean, but also jobs along the coastlines. And that's why also with the UK fishers, we've worked really closely. And then what we managed to ban is electric pulse fishing. So we used to not just trawl the ocean with, these are giant nets which are dragged along
something
the
the Dutch are very big on, isn't it?
The Dutch were really big on it, and they had added electrodes so that they would, on top of just dragging, they would then also electrocute the fish.
But everything in the water is electrocuted.
Everything would die. The larvae, the eggs. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. But we paired with all these fishers along the coastlines, including the UK, which then was part of the EU, and we managed to ban electric fishing in Europe. We managed to ban deep-sea fishing all the way to 2,000 meters in Europe. So when we are mobilized with citizens, we managed to win votes, And right now there is a vote coming up next week. Actually, on the 12th of July, the European Parliament will also vote something which can be extremely important. It's a text on the restoration of nature. And this is a great window of opportunity to place two extremely important measures for the ocean. We can ban these large-scale industrial trawlers that are beyond 25 meters in length and all the way to 140. And these massive monsters, they come all the way to the shore to fish in the same area where you will find a 6-meter boat trying to fish. And so when you have a 140-meter trawler, for example, in one day, that large industrial monster can take what 1,000 fishermen of a smaller size can take in the same day.
Eviscerate the waters.
They destroy everything. And this is why we have a problem with public decision-making right now, because when you really look at facts, the reality is that authorities like France support the destruction of jobs. And that's where it's completely irrational. And that's true of a lot of the climate actions that we could take. If we wanted to really preserve the environment, the climate and jobs, we could. We have all the possibilities. Let's say the sustainable jobs already exist. We don't have to invent them, right? Small-scale farming, small-scale fishing, selective gear. You can fish without destroying the ocean. It's possible, and that's what you should be doing if you want to have a healthy ocean in the future. But that's not what we choose to support. And so next week, on the 12th of July in the European Parliament, we're going to have a great opportunity to, one, adopt a text that sets really ambitious goals to preserve and restore nature. And two, we'll have amendments that manage to have real marine protected areas in Europe, because they're not protected. We call them protected, but they're not protected. You can trawl the hell out of them. And second, to exclude these massive industrial vessels above 25 meters from territorial and coastal waters.
If we look, Claire, in context of now, you said, I know your group has been protesting outside of the European Union buildings in Brussels in the past week or so ahead of this. If we look at the cost of living crisis, the price of fish, for example, in supermarkets, it really leapt in value, bigger profits for companies. Is that actually working against your fight at the moment, because the fishermen, the big companies, are making big money right now?
They're actually not. No, they're not.
Because people aren't buying it.
No, when you look, that's what we do. We have an obsession with public subsidies, because when you look at industrial fishing, actually, they are subsidized heavily by your tax money and my tax money. If we took away that money, if we cut off the tap that actually gives them all that public money that throws into their mouths, they would actually be making losses. So the small-scale fishers are not organized politically to even gain from the system, so they're not subsidized. But all these large-scale industrial vessels are organized politically, very well organized politically. They have lobby groups like Europesh, massive group, and they always manage to write policies in their favor, and they gain. So the more than 60% of public subsidies worldwide are actually given to destructive fishing methods and large-scale fishers. So it's the same thing. It's an irrational choice that we make to subsidize the destruction of the ocean. And the ocean is our greatest ally in terms of climate change. It actually absorbs 93% of the excess heat that our activities actually generate. So it's not just our ally for the climate, it's actually our ally for the weather forecast. If you don't want to be suffocating under massive heat waves, you need the ocean, and we need it now. But the thing is, as you've seen, do you know that waters in Scotland right now are 5 degrees above average? Scottish fishermen have never seen this. This is massive. And so
you're also looking at a decline in what's in our seas and oceans because of that. Claire, 10 years on from when I first watched you and first saw your campaign, start up, just over that now, still as indefatigable as ever. And it's clearly that passion that's going to drive things through. Thank you so much for talking to us. Claire Nouvian, the founder of the NGO BLOOM Association.